Okay, hi. I'm Ed again, and this is February 23rd, 2020. And I know the date because I was just talking about it because it's Jose Luis' birthday, the guy operating the camera there, and it's also the birthday of my ex-wife, who I spoke to the other day, wishing birthday wishes and so on. Anyway, there's two things I want to talk about today, and I think they're both really playing on my mind. So I'm not going to get a chance to flesh them out, both of them, but I don't know. We'll just see how it goes. The first thing I want to talk about is the idea, and I'm not sure if I'd mentioned on a video before, but I'm convinced that the solution to human problems, problems that we're experiencing on this planet right now, some of the big problems, namely, for example, climate issues. The climate is changing. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Despite the ridiculous comments of, the President of the United States that, it's not really happening because God's taking care of the planet or some damn thing. I mean, science has shown us clearly that it's happening, and we need desperately to do something about it. But that's not the thing that I want to talk about. I want to talk about a broader issue about solving problems like that. I'm humanist, way up there with humanist skeptic and all of that, how to solve those problems, and I think that humans have to solve them. And that's the issue. I think what we need for if we can solve these problems, or to improve our chances of solving these problems, we need to empower women. In other words, we need to, from the other angle, we need to say, okay, girls, we need you on board to help with this thing. The way it's going right now, and I'm certainly not blaming this on women, because they've been kept out of the mix, cultural things and religious problems and that kind of thing. But I think we need to empower women. Okay, now, first of all, I'm sure there's some people going, no, I'm not saying that we need to put women in power for everything. We need to empower women, get them into the mix so they are working on, especially this is a scientific problem, the one that I mentioned, the big problem of climate change, specifically a scientific problem. I've got a certain amount of confidence that it can be solved, but I'm also confident. Can you turn on that fan, or
Okay.
we just turned the fan on? Excuse us there. It's warm. I'm sitting out on the terrace and the sun's right there, and it's probably close to 30 degrees here where I live in Mexico. So we got the fan on. Where was I? Okay, I'm saying, by empowering women, on the one hand, I'm saying, okay, girls, we need you to get on the wagon here and start pulling your weight in terms of solving this problem. Again, not blaming women, because they've been, cultures and religion and so on have kept women out of the thing. But I want women, my basic idea is I want women to be equally involved in, especially science, all of the sciences, including especially physics, mathematics, everything, biology, and all of the sciences that especially, not especially or specifically, but that would include solving the problem of climate change and that. My point is that we have so far been we've done a lot of great things. But if you look at the damn picture, it's all only men that have been doing this thing. And that's not to the credit of men, it's to the credit of the fact that women haven't been included. Women haven't had the opportunity to be educated, so all of the Einsteins and Newtons and Galileos and Copernicuses of the world have all been men. So I'm saying, okay, girls, you've got to get on board and start doing, because there's no doubt that women have at least half of the brain power of the world, but it's not being funneled into those kinds of things, into science and politics, political leadership. That I want women into everything. Like, okay, because I'm going to do a total tangent here. Because I spent yesterday over an hour on the phone with a friend, David, who's a Jehovah's Witness gentleman. And we kind of become friends, although because of my attitude, and he's a dyed-in-the-wool Jehovah. We are just like this, in our conversations. I like the conversations. I think mostly he does too. But the crux of it that I get down to, when David loses interest in the conversation, when I push on, kind of hold his feet to the fire of, why do you believe that this Jehovah guy, or Yahweh, or whatever the hell you call him, why do you believe he exists? The conversation kind of falls apart, because he's a history buff and all that, and his argument is all around the Bible and history show that the Jehovah's Witness religion is the religion, the best religion in the world and all that. I'm fine with having that conversation with him, because I like talking about Bible stories, and I read the Bible, the Old Testament. I read the first 5 books, Genesis and Exodus and Deuteronomy, Numbers, all of that stuff. I'm fine with talking about that, and I know the New Testament probably better. But what I'm trying to get from him, and I really want to talk about this problem, because until we can show we have a real good reason to believe, that anybody has a real good reason to believe that a Jehovah or Yahweh or Jesus or whatever actually exists, we got nothing. Because my point is that if that doesn't exist, it can't do anything. I think they have to agree with that. So first of all, we should be working, from the religious perspective, put on my Jehovah's Witness hat a minute. We should be going all out to prove that at least, this, whatever they call it, this deity guy or spirit or whatever they want to call it, actually exists. And when we get down to it, I hear often, when I get into conversations, it boils down to, because logically and philosophically and practically, there is just no evidence. There's nothing convincing. And it always boils down to, you just got to have faith. And the problem is, as far as I can see, faith is the way they're using this word, is just believing something without evidence or data or anything, and you just believe it because you like it, or you think, or it feels good, or it makes you feel good or something. It's not a very good specifically on the argument about, the Bible story, a lot of it boils down to Jesus Christ. I think the Christian thing is Jesus Christ came to earth, He was God, the Son of God or whatever, and the whole plan was for him to come here, be crucified, tortured to death, and that was somehow going to eradicate all the sinning that man had ever done or ever was going to do, and would, then all you have to do is believe in this thing and you get into heaven. Well, the Jehovah's story is a little bit different. They believe in the crucifixion and all of that, but they don't have a heaven and hell thing going on. But anyway, salute. It boils down to, as far as I can see, even if we admit that this Jesus guy maybe existed, maybe there was a guy named Jesus, the itinerant rabbi going around preaching and curing, supposedly helping sick people and so on. I won't use the word curing because that is part of the problem. If I say, why do you believe that this Jesus was actually the Son of God? It seems to boil down to the biblical story of the empty tomb. He was, they believe, crucified. It's all just a story, so we don't know if this person was a real person, and if this actual person, if he did exist, was actually crucified by the Romans or whatever. And then the empty tomb story. Story's different depending on which book of the New Testament you read. But basically some folks came to the tomb where the body of Jesus that had crucified on the cross was laying. And when they got there was no body. That's it. And from that, the story, as far as I can see, the story was just developed. That the reason there was no body in the tomb, no body of Jesus, nobody. Yeah, nobody. No, there was people in the tomb, but there was no cadaver, there was no body. The reason is because he bodily, depending on the story, went up to heaven and rejoined God. He is God, or the Son of God, or whatever. Anyway, so that's the whole bloody thing. And so, to be a Christian, you have to believe that with that evidence, there's a story that somebody went to a tomb where this body had been, and it was no longer there, and that somehow translates into he went up to heaven, sit at the right hand of the Father, and all that sort of thing. It just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, so I'm at the end here. So sorry about the two different things. I really want you to think about the idea of the empowerment of women, to get women involved from the time they're children, the same way as boys have been for at least the last couple of 100 years. I want them to get excited about science, all forms of science and mathematics, and especially physics, maybe astrophysics. Biology is huge, and of course cosmology and the study of our planet, how our planet works, and this rather delicate system of what do we call, what's the word for it? The air and whatnot, that our atmosphere, how that works, and how we can sustain it and make it not fade and and cause our planet to become too hot for us eventually to live on, or somehow solve that problem. So that's the huge thing. The answer is empower women, get women in on the solution worldwide. I'm convinced that it's a huge subject. And the other thing is, that's got nothing to do with it, is the religious belief. Religion certainly has a lot to do with the first thing, but the other thing, as I said, like talking with my friend David the other day, the Jehovah's Witness, as soon as I bring up this idea of how can we know that this Jehovah guy, or Yahweh, whatever we want to call him, or Jesus, are real, that there's actually some, they use the word spirit sometimes when I push on the question, how can we know that real? That's real. And until it seems that's the first question. Let's find evidence that it's real. I'm willing to get on board if we can find evidence, but the record is so bad, the track record, we've been trying to do this for, well, hundreds of years at least. Religious people have been trying to prove it, and I still see nothing that even, never mind convinces me, that gets me thinking that it's even a possibility. So, okay, I know those are two very disparate ideas, that very separate, but two things that have been really playing on my mind. And so again, I'm Ed. The date is February 23rd. Our cameraman's birthday, Jose Luis' birthday, my ex-wife's birthday, and I'm Ed. This is an Atheist, a Bird with No Experience, and thank you. That's all for today.